Hey everyone, Ranger here. It's been a little while since I've done a review, but I'm doing one anyway. So yeah, so I've been meaning to review more of my prehistoric models lately. Not necessarily Jurassic World figures. I mean like prehistoric models, like I did with the Collect a Dino a few months back. So I thought, what other dino models I want to review. Well, I decided that I want to review one of my favorite models from this particular company, and it's one that I think is becoming really popular among the dinosaur community. So without further ado, let us take a look at the PNSO Audrey, the Lambeosaurus. And before then, let's get some information out of the way. So Lambeosaurus, meaning Lambe's lizard, was named after the paleontologist that founded Lawrence Lambie, was a genus of hadrosaur that lived in the late Cretaceous period about 75 million years ago in North America, particularly around Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Now, it is most prominent in Canada, and it is known by two species, with this model being based on Lambeosaurus lambi because of the distinct notch you can see on the crest here. Now, it was around 25 feet long, which is a pretty big animal, but some specimens may be at least 50 feet in length. So, yeah, these guys can get pretty big, to say the least. So, yeah. And in the formation was found, the Dinosaur Park Formation. It would have lived with several varieties of dinosaurs, including ceratopsians such as Centrosaurus, Styracosaurus, Chasmosaurus, fellow hadrosaurs, Cryptosaurus, Corythosaurus, and Parasaurolophus, the armored ankylosaurians, Edmontonia and Euoplocephalus, and the Tyrannosaur Gorgosaurus. So definitely an abundance of creatures during its environment. So yeah, so here, obviously Audrey in the flesh. So yeah, so I've been collecting PNSO figures ever since, I want to say, by the end of 2021, during that year's Christmas, where I got two models, and then around my birthday, I decided to get the Lambeosaurus here. And then around Christmas, you guys saw in my previous haul video, I got in the Miragaia. So yeah, so I decided to pick out Audrey during my birthday because Lambeosaurus in general has become one of my favorite hadrosaurs, particularly because it was featured in the somewhat famous short film, which is on YouTube, A More Ancient Spring, as part of the Dinosaurus series. So I'm sure some of you guys have probably seen that short film, as its main protagonist is a lonely male Lambeosaurus. And I do recommend checking out the Dinosaurus series in general. I may put a link for a playlist down below, or at least a link to the short film A More Ancient Spring, which is what features the Lambeosaurus. But yeah, so yeah, it was because of that short film that I have a more fondness towards Lambeosaurus in general. So yeah, so definitely really impressed with what PNSO did with Audrey here. So without further ado, let's take a look. And also, I want to point out is that I decided to make a little twist when it comes to reviewing my prehistoric models, is that I have this plant fossil here, and I thought it'd be a fun idea to put my models underneath this plant fossil here. Well, at least some of the smaller guys, since I'm pretty sure some of the bigger guys would kind of crush this if given a chance, which I am not planning to do because this plant fossil was kind of expensive. But yeah, so yeah, I thought it'd be a fun idea to do with, the more smaller guys in my collection. So yeah, so not rambling, here is Audrey. Now, I have to say, when it comes to hadrosaur figures, there's not really much when it comes to variety in terms of species. Like, I think the one hadrosaur that gets, represented in like figures, whether it be, random bootlegs or in toy lines in general, would probably be Parasaurolophus. But, in terms of other species, they kind of got overlooked as, hadrosaurs are usually depicted as, pitiful, weak prey items for like bigger carnivores, which, is a bit unfair as, in general, any dinosaur is interesting in their own way. And I think hadrosaurs, like Audrey here, are really well represented. I mean, this model here is definitely really striking. So without further ado, let's take a look at the head. So the head of Audrey looks really good. Now, PNSO has been really acclaimed for, putting, really, good accuracies in their models. Admittedly, I did have to do a little bit of research before I record this as, my knowledge on certain dinosaur anatomy and stuff like that is still relatively minimal. I know I'm a big dinosaur fan, but I don't know exactly everything in terms of anatomy. It's because, with over 700 species, it's kind of hard to lose track. But, I try my best to know, some scientific details when it comes to, Audrey here. And for the most part, from what I've been seeing, I think PNSO did a pretty good job representing a Lambeosaurus here. So first we got the head. I should have started off with the head sooner, but anyway, so yeah, so Audrey here has a really nice textured head here, particularly around the eyes. You can see, nice scoot details and stuff like that. And of course, we got the beak. Now, an interesting fact about Lambeosaurus is that they have more of a thinner snout when it compared to other hadrosaurs. Hadrosaurs are known as, the duck-billed dinosaurs, and you could still kind of see the bill like shape with the Lambeosaurus here, but it's not as prominent when compared to other hadrosaurs. But I think it makes the dinosaurs unique, and and some people complained how it's a bit too skinny and maybe a little bit more meat into it. I personally don't mind it. I think it makes Audrey a little bit more unique when it comes to some of my other figures in my collection. So no big deal for me. So yeah. And speaking of the bill, we can see here a nice darkish brown coat on it. You can see some orange running up through here till you hit the crest. And nice details, like I said, on the eyes, really nice scale details. And this is where we started getting to, the white pattern here with all the lines and stuff like that. I know some people have some issues with this, as they complain that it's kind of slapped in and it doesn't exactly, it's blended well in the paint. Yeah, I guess I do see that. Like, maybe the PNSO could have done a little bit better when it comes to blending in the stripes with the rest of the body. I don't personally mind it, but I can kind of see where some areas it is kind of an eyesore, admittedly, but it's, I'm not, one to really criticize unless something is really bad, but, there's just, one nitpick that certain people have with this, and it's a nitpick, yeah, but it's one that I don't personally mind, and, the overall model itself is still really presentable. The main color, as we can see, is more of a darkish green on the top here. You can see it's all the way down the body till you reach the tail. And then more or less on the underside is more of a tannish color with some green hues. So, really nicely done. So, yeah, colors, I think it works well. And, something I'm kind of surprised is how well the orange and green kind of mix in. Like, I don't think it's a color pattern that you often see in general. Like, being an art student, you put, green with, let's say, blue because, those are cool colors, and then orange with, let's say, yellow because they're, God, I can't speak, because they're warm colors. So those are understandable, but the fact that PNSO chose this kind of color choice, it's kind of unique to say the least. So, I commend PNSO doing something a little bit risky, but yeah, it still makes the model presentable. So speaking of colors, let's actually talk about the crest a bit. So the colors on the crest is definitely pretty good. You have a really vibrant orange with, some black. Now, something to note is sort of the shiny sheen you see on the crest here. You can kind of see on the light. So I believe this is supposed to represent the keratin coating on the crest, since we now know that when it comes to, prominent structures on dinosaurs, like let's say, hadrosaur crest and ceratopsian horns, that we know that they would have been covered in more or less of a keratin to protect some of the bony inside of the crest. So makes a lot of sense, and the overall crest is really presentable. Of course, like I said, it's based on Lambeosaurus lambi, as it's more of a hatchet shaped crest as opposed to the other species. I kind of forgot the name of the other species right now, but yeah. So that one had more of an pompadour like crest, to say the least. So yeah, so the crest is definitely well done, and definitely one of the best parts of the figure. So also with colors, we also got, this orange stripe here. I mentioned orange before, but I want to mention the stripe here on the back. So yeah, so moving on with the overall texture of the model, it's really good. Like I can see, really good muscle movement here with Audrey's position in his neck. It's really well done. Even though, there's no real wash over, the underbelly, you can see some of the muscle textures and how it moves. It's definitely pretty spot on, to say the least. So kudos to PNSO on that. And overall, the detail on the scales are really good. Like you can see, tiny little details. Now, I'm not entirely sure how accurate the scales are. I'm pretty sure the scales are accurate for the animal. Like you can see, they're a bit more tiny, and you can see some more bigger prominent scales, especially around the belly and some parts of the legs also, and around the lower hips. So yep, really nicely done. Now, what another complaint some people have with Audrey here is sort of the more of a gloss over the body, as it should have been restricted to the crest. On my model, because I did also see some reviews of it. I think it was Spino Dude who mentioned how the glossy texture of the body bothered him. Um, it's not exactly as prominent on my model, and I think it's a reason because I think mine is probably a second production model, which I'll also show when I talk about some of the things Audrey comes with. So yeah, but back with the muscle details and the scale detail, it's definitely really nicely done. It definitely adds life to Audrey as a model. You're basically looking at probably the best example of a real life hadrosaur. So you can see really nice details along with the muscle movement. It's really nicely done. Yeah, and back with the stripes. Now that I'm realizing it is, a bit distracting in some areas, like it does hinder some of the scale details. But again, it's not a big deal breaker, and unless you look at it real close, that's when it could become a little bit noticeable. But it's no big deal for me. Now, moving, actually something I should point out with the head here is actually the ear holes are picked out, which actually I don't think it's really as prominent on this side, but that's okay. It's more prominent on this side with this ear hole, so nicely done. And we got nice orange little beady eyes. And does he have derp eyes? I need to relook. Thankfully my Audrey model doesn't exactly have derpy like eyes. I mean, he kind of does in some angles, but it's really not that noticeable once you get up close. So yeah, back with the main body. Now the legs. Now there's another issue some people have with the model is they think that the legs are a bit too slender or minuscule. I think this proportion, it's passable. I mean, I do agree that at least maybe the front legs should be a little bit more bulkier, and maybe the feet maybe a little bit bulkier also. Not necessarily make them the feet oversized, but maybe a bit more muscle would have been approachable. But it doesn't bother me too much, and you still get nice details on the legs also, like nice little scale details, and of course details on the lower feet and on the foot itself with some nice skin movement also, which would make sense as, this Audrey is supposed to be moving in this position. So, yep, really nicely done. And of course, you got some black paint on the nails. They're not too prominent as, it's also mixed in with the darker green also, which maybe it is a little bit of a nitpick, but I don't know, it's barely noticeable. And also the feet on the other side, they're the same tannish color as the other side also. And also a note is some of the orange on the top here, it blends in with the green also. Again, an interesting choice by PNSO, but one I'm actually glad they did as, they're taking a little bit of a risk. So, yeah. Now, the front legs, yeah, I definitely agree that they should be a little bit more bulkier. As, this would have been, a really big animal, so it would need a lot of support to help with its weight. But, again, it's not that big of a deal to me, so, yeah. So moving down, it's really skinny and, but at the same time, you do see some nice scale details. It is a bit smoother on the underside, so you still get some nice details on the other side also. Now, the front feet. Now, this is where things get interesting. So, I'm sure some of you are aware, if you're, into paleontology or catch up with the latest research when it comes to dinosaurs, then you'll know that hadrosaurs, like Lambeosaurus, may have actually had more like hoof-like structures on their hands or front feet. Now, so similar to that of horses and some other ungulates. Now, you may think that it's weird, but it's not about being weird, honestly. It's about being accurate. And to be completely honest, I think it does make sense for the kind of animals these were. They were, herbivores, so they would have filled the niches of, some ungulates. So is it ungulates or is it the family of horses? I'm not sure. If I screwed that up, I am so sorry to all science nerds, honestly. So basically hoof-like structures like horses, honestly. I'm just gonna put it like that. I think what it makes sense, honestly, as again, you have a lot of weight pressuring down on the front legs, and considering that the animals also walked on two, also, I think it makes sense. And also with the actual feet on Audrey here, you can see sort of the hoof-like structures as I was mentioning, and this little like dew claw on the other side. Yeah, it would have been nice to have a little bit of paint, but I would imagine it would have been kind of be tough to do and make the paint a little sloppy. So that's understandable. Now moving down to the tail here. So the tail is definitely really well, not interesting, but it's definitely nice beefy hadrosaur tail. Really straightforward. I believe the tails in hadrosaurs in general, they're pretty thick in general, not just their shape, but also because of their anatomy. As I believe there's like some form of extra veins or skeletal structure added to the tails to add support. So yeah, pretty interesting. So nice. You still got the nice green and undertone of tan and the orange. Now also on the back, also starting here, you got these nice interesting scoots here. Definitely adds a bit of character to Audrey. So yeah, pretty nicely done here, and it kind of stops here. It may seem weird at first, but I think once you see Audrey in person, it's definitely really presentable, honestly, and not too worrisome. So yeah, obviously the green as I mentioned, and like I said, the white striping is, maybe it could have been blended better, but I already mentioned that. But yeah, so overall nice structure to the tail. And talk about more about the underbelly or underside of the hip area, you can see that I'm not sure if this area in particular between the pelvis is shrink wrap. I mean, to me, it kind of looks shrink wrap, and at some angles, it does look a little weird at some angles. So I'm not sure if it's shrink wrap or if it's actually something we know about Lambeosaurus and other hadrosaurs. If anyone knows the answer to this, just leave a comment. And also over here, we can see a nice slit for the cloaca. So yeah, so overall, I think Audrey is definitely one of my favorite models in my collection. Put him on the plant base there. So yeah, is it a perfect hadrosaur? I don't necessarily think so. Is it one of the best? Absolutely. I think this is one of the best hadrosaurs in the market right now. And for like the 22 bucks I paid on Amazon, I think it's pretty acceptable deal, honestly. Especially with some of the extra things Audrey comes with. So we're actually gonna look at that also. So first things first, there's this booklet. Now, this is the reason why I think this is a second production version of Audrey, because before he would have come, because I did saw Spinal Dude's review, and his version of Audrey came with basically a poster with the description of the dinosaur. With this particular version, it's a booklet. So, it has some information about the dinosaur, especially the fact that I am born a foodie. Now, I'm not gonna exactly go this word for word, but basically what this describes is that, hadrosaurs, like Audrey, would actually chew their food. So similar to us people today. So you guys know, certain other herbivores like, let's say, sauropods, they rely mostly on swallowing their food and then also swallowing stones to help break down the plant matter that they eat. With hadrosaurs, they actually chew their food, so it makes them really adaptable to certain environments. So yeah, and also we got some photos of the production model, and looking at the production model, admittedly, it is better when it comes to payment application. Like, I think the white stripes is more blended on the production model, and the crest is a bit more vibrant, admittedly, and there's just a slight tint of details added. But it's not, I don't want to really complain too much, you guys, because, honestly, I still think I got a good deal on Audrey itself, and, he's still a really beautiful model in general. So, yeah, so I'm not too nitpicky on that. So, yeah, and also we got close-ups of the model. Also, well, the production model. And also really interesting is this interesting artwork of course, Lambeosaurus. Now, it's not exactly accurate to the model itself, but this is definitely interesting because not only does it show the, is it the Lambi species? Because to me, it looks like a female version of the other species. And this is what I was talking about, the more, pompadour-like head structure with the crest. So, kind of interesting how PNSO randomly chose the second species over the actual one Audrey is. Is it a big deal breaker? No, because, this is really freaking good art, honestly. I mean, whoever doesn't love dinosaur art, what the hell is wrong with you? But yeah, so, yeah. And also there's this nice little segment called Learn How to Draw Dinosaurs. So basically it teaches you how you can draw the Audrey model. So yeah, and the nice little artwork of Audrey. So it shows you all the tips and structures. So maybe I could actually refer to this someday as, with me being an artist at my campus, maybe this could help me be a little bit more anatomically accurate since, my dinosaur depictions lean more towards the cartoony and stylized style. So, I mean, that's not to say my style is bad. It's just, maybe this book can help me some form of improvement someday. We'll see how that goes in general. So, yeah. So, nice little booklet. And also, one thing that the original production model didn't came that this one does, if I can unfold it here, is this really nice poster with Audrey. Obviously, the production model, but this is definitely pretty cool. I don't think I really have the room to really put this up. Maybe I can get a frame, but really this poster is just, for extra fun. Although I do like the added conclusion of some of the stats of the dinosaurs, about 9 meters, diet herbivore, period Cretaceous, fossil origin, North America. So yeah, pretty cool little poster that they out of here. So, yeah. And I definitely prefer to have more minimalistic posters and booklets rather than, paying for the $60 prices point for some of the museum models like the iguanodon. Oh man, as much as that model is, good, there is no way I'm willing to pay at least $60 for just the figure itself and some random other books and material and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not convinced PNSO, honestly. So yeah, so we got those out of the way. I think it is a good time to start with the comparison. So we're actually gonna get the plan based off for a little bit since we want Audrey to be eye to eye with the models I'm gonna compare. Actually put him in this position. But yeah, so first off, let's compare to some other ornithopods I got, which I only actually have 3, honestly. So here we have the Pterobatat Parasaurolophus and the Papo Iguanodon. So these are the only 3 ornithopods I got. So yeah, I kind of need to work my way up. I was considering maybe getting the Hadrosaurs from PNSO also, but I do know that its main issue is standing up over time, so that's kind of hindering my, want to maybe get it some days, but we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, so we can compare Audrey with, his fellow ornithopod compadres. So, yeah, so we could see, an interesting variety. So we got Pterobatat, which is, more or less the $10 price point. PNSO, which is more or less the 20 price point, although it's technically 22. And then with Papo here, I believe I got at least $25 to $30. So interesting price ranges, considering, all these figures have good enough details considering their prices. So yeah, and I actually do really love the Iguanodon model here, to be completely honest, you guys. Definitely a bit more worth the money than the PNSO one. I know it's stylized and not accurate, but I'm sorry, $60? No way. So yeah, pretty nice comparison here. We're actually gonna leave the Parasaurolophus here since I mentioned that Parasaurolophus lived in the same area as Lambeosaurus. So we're actually gonna bring in more models that actually live with Lambeosaurus. Here we got the Euoplocephalus by Batat also, although I believe some people say that it's actually a Scutosaurus, or I don't know, classification with dinosaurs can be so convoluted sometimes. I'm just gonna call it a Euoplocephalus. And then, of course, moving the camera here, we got my custom painted Carnegie Gorgosaurus. I think these guys look really good next to each other. I think the Gorgosaurus is a bit too small because I think it was at least the same scale. Was it? Because the Gorgosaurus that was in the Dinosaur series that killed the Hadrosaurus mate, a little bit of spoilers, sorry. Yeah, it was, I think it was a bit smaller, which makes sense as, it was a male and sometimes male dinosaurs are smaller, but, I still, honestly, I think there's a good display if you want to recreate the dinosaur park formation with certain species. So, yeah, kind of an interesting display I got here. So, yep. And then last but not least, we're going to compare to your average Jurassic World figure with, of course, Blue from the Tap Pack. So yeah, so interesting comparison here. Not accurate, but I just want to compare to those who collect Jurassic World figures. So yeah. So putting him back on the plant. So yeah, so overall thoughts on PNSO's Audrey Lambeosaurus. Definitely one of my favorite dinosaur models in my collection right now. Despite certain nitpicks that I mentioned here and there, I think this is, one of the best hadrosaurs you can get in the market right now. I'm definitely glad that certain hadrosaurs are getting more or less a comeback recently, because I know that Collect Day is making the hadrosaurs for their 2023 lineup, so, which I'm definitely looking forward to that one. So definitely glad that hadrosaurs are slowly getting more recognition. So, and we kind of have to thank PNSO for making certain hadrosaurs over their lineup for us to collect. Though, like I said, some of their museum models are not exactly worth the extra prices, but that's a story for another day. So, yeah, I think Audrey here, really solid model. Definitely one of my favorites. Love the colors. Interesting color choices, like I said, with the orange and green. Sculpt is fantastic. Really nice scale details all around. And it does scale well with certain models they might have. So definitely do recommend this model if you're passionate about collecting dinosaur models like I am, or just want a good display choice for your desk or something like that. So yeah, so definitely recommend Audrey for those who just really want an appealing hadrosaur. So yeah, so I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully whenever I have certain downtimes when I'm not busy with other projects, I can do more videos because I may have one or two videos ideas I have for the future, but again, we'll see how that goes whenever the right time comes. But yeah, and I want to thank everyone who is being patient with me while I'm starting classes again. So yep, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.